Good morning, everyone. How are y'all out there wandering in? I see you. How are y'all? Excellent. Welcome to Open San Jose. My name is Chad Johnston. I'm the CEO of Create TV San Jose. We're the nonprofit community media center for the last 18 years for the city of San Jose. So we teach people how to make media and tell stories, give them all the equipment, resources, studio space, and then we manage 4 TV stations on Comcast Cable, Apple TV, Roku, Fire. You can find Create TV out there. We also produce media for nonprofits on a sliding scale. And how many of you have ever seen a city or county meeting on YouTube or on TV? I figured in this room. That's our crew that help the city and county get those messages out. And last but not least, we operate this community center and event center called Open San Jose. This space is your space for conferences, performance, events. It's dynamic, it's ever changing. Twice a month, this is actually a bunch of teenagers playing hardcore music and slam dancing right where I stand now. And then it's a retreat center and conference center, things like that. So if you're interested in anything that we do, look for someone with a shirt or a badge that has Create TV. We're happy to share more information about the space and the work we do. And welcome. I hope that the 2 days goes well. We'll bring Ryan up. You want a handheld or? Thank you.
Welcome to the Silicon Valley Economic Forum. We're super excited to have you guys here. We've been hosting institutional investing events since 2009. Basically, what happened was we went to all the events here in Silicon Valley and realized that these events are actually just for founders. And that's super important. Definitely needs to exist. Founders need a place where they can meet other individuals. But as an investor doesn't want to go to an event and meet 100 unfundable founders. And that's the big problem with a lot of the events that are in all of these major startup ecosystems. So what we started doing was hosting events for investors. And how it works is we invite these investors out and we ask them for their breakout portfolio company. And if they'll introduce us to that breakout portfolio company, we'll have the founder and the investor speak at our event. Founder goes first, so we understand the pitch, we understand the vision, we understand the opportunity. But much more importantly to our group, we want to hear from the investor and understand why now, why this team, why out of millions of opportunities that are out there, why are you spending your time and money here? And if we get a good answer to that, we typically have family offices that are willing to follow on. And if we get a bad answer to that, the due diligence process is over. These events became very popular in San Francisco, so we started doing them around the country. And then we had this crazy idea to do them around the world. We've since done them in 19 different countries. We've done them in all of the major startup ecosystems. However, the big lesson from doing these all around the world is that we never had to have left Silicon Valley in the first place. When we compare our Silicon Valley events to other geographical regions based on investor feedback, the quality of founder is 10 to 20 times stronger. And the dry powder in the room and the assets under management in the room is 100 to 200x larger. So because of that, we've stopped going all around the world. We're just hyper-focused on Silicon Valley. Every month, we host a handful of events to engage our community. We do a regular poker game in Atherton. We do sailing trips around the Bay. We do private dinners and private networking events. And we do all these monthly events so that we can curate this event. Believe it or not, we've looked at over 10,000 startups for this event. We've talked to hundreds of investors, and we did all of that so that we can curate a fantastic event for you guys today. We really do appreciate you guys coming out. We really appreciate our partners, City of San Jose, Tesla. I could go on and on. We would not be able to do these events without our strong partners. And on that note, I'd like to introduce you guys to the chair of the Silicon Valley Economic Forum. He hosts many of the family office events all around the world. If you guys can please help me give a warm welcome to Jason Ma.
Well, thank you so much, Orion. I'm simply a guest speaker. I don't host anything. So even here, I'm just a guest chair or chairman, as well as a moderator for two panels. By the way, where's my wife, Gail? Where are you, honey? Okay, she's here somewhere.
It's over there.
I know she's tiny. She's a petite, so it's kind of hard to find. It's so delightful whenever I have a family member. The joke is that my daughters are 29, 25 years old, both in New York City, of course in New York City, right? Kids. They're both in big tech, both are engineering leaders. One at Google, one at Stripe. Whenever I have a mafia member with me with a capital A, and my older daughter, she's 29 now, back in high school, she said, Dad, we are the mafia with a capital A. I said, honey, what is that? The Ma family, the Ma family. I think that's cool, honey. That's innovation, right? Innovation. So innovation comes in so many types. Innovation comes in technology, comes in product, comes in business model, comes in process, etc. So sort of pre-LLM innovation, isn't it? Language model here. I'm so grateful and inspired to be here, to be your forum chair. You're going to see me on stage all the time. And Silicon Valley, hey guys, by the way, who are locals here? Raise your hand. Locals. Who are from out of town? Well, welcome to our hood, Silicon Valley. And who are from out of the United States, from a foreign country? Okay, so most Americans here, fantastic. And it's a friend of mine. He's so funny. He's from the 408 area code, right? So versus 650 versus 408, 408 San Jose, Cupertino, Saratoga. The guy jokes that, hey, I'm not Atherton, I'm not Palo Alto 650, I'm 408. I'm from the hood. Cracks me up, right? Cracks me up. I'm from the hood too. I'm from the hood. Welcome aboard to SVEF, Silicon Valley Economic Forum. And thank you very much, Ryan. We're going to have a blast for the next 2 days. So after this, I'm going to be moderating our opening fireside chat, Philanthropy in the Age of AI. I will reserve my talk with my two esteemed panelists. Then, the significance of Silicon Valley, think about that, okay? With God is love and truth. So I'm going to speak the truth, right? Silicon Valley, think about that. Besides Washington, D.C., and also Mar-a-Lago, two White Houses, if you will, as well as Beijing, and which is the most powerful place on earth. Literally speaking, Silicon Valley, we're right here. I grew up in San Francisco, and I tell people that Silicon Valley, and a lot of us would probably concur, right? So Silicon Valley is a state of mind. It's a state of mind. It includes the entire Bay Area, including San Francisco. And it's good to have the state of mind, our culture, our ways and means. And I've been living in the Bay Area for 52 years so far, since I immigrated from Hong Kong. I'm fluent in Cantonese. I speak a little Mandarin, but I'm much better in English now. And I've seen it grow so much, right? Like right here in San Jose, way back in the 70s and 80s. I'm that old, by the way. I'm 1,000 years old. My kids are 29 and 25, and my wife and I had them late. So I'm that old, 1,000 years old. Used to be yellow lilies everywhere. It was fantastic. And IBM in South San Jose, like a disk, factory and all that, right? When I went to Berkeley, the first class I took in UC Berkeley, and I went to use Berkeley Engineering, we were still using punch cards, man. The CS class, punch cards. Isn't it crazy? I should have kept the deck of punch cards for the Ma Family Museum. I should have kept that and show my kids, right? That was so cool. We are innovative. What we do here influences the world. When the United States sneezes, much of the world catches a cold. Okay, so with power, not in a arrogant way, but in a realistic way, with influence comes responsibility. So one reason Ryan and I decided that let's start off rather than say in the Silicon Valley, work, 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 go, go, go culture. Okay, we're like 24/7, right? You're minus some family time, which is good. China has this 996 concept. You work 6 days a week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Silicon Valley is freaking 24/7, but including some family time, which is good. Value your family is important, okay? Have a lot of kids. My joke is that have a lot of kids. Have 10 kids if you can. Okay, have more kids than what you can afford. So in addition to work, family, please, man, family spirit, family work, community connection, pro-business, pro-growth is important to us. Here, pro-growth, also innovation, entrepreneurship, investing, right? And which is a primary reason you guys are here. So I encourage for all of you, imagine your best future self. What can we all do individually and within a family to become our next best version of ourselves? That is your competitor, not the neighbors around you, people around you. Don't compare with each other. Okay, that's a devil's game. But compare yourself to your future best self. That's my challenge to you. Okay. So that said, are we at 9:10 or so, probably, Ryan? Okay, Melanie, where are you? And also my friend from San Jose Art Institute. Is it here yet? Ellen, please come up. James, hi, how are you? Okay. Okay, fantastic. How do you want us? Okay, I will sit right here, and you guys sit over here. I'm gonna sit like this. Perfect, perfect. Part of being a chair is sort of like being the MC with a big stick. And a big stick I use is that I like to keep things punctual on time. Because we're punctual, we're respectful of other people's time as well. So you're gonna see me all the time, like shepherding people on and off stage. And for short talks, some logistics here. We're gonna have the award ceremony starting at 5 or so. We will be out of here by 4:45. We're gonna walk over to the city hall, which is only a couple of minutes away, and we'll meet with our esteemed City of San Jose Matt Mahan, who I like so much, and Mayor Mahan, he is so good. Okay, he is so good that he even has a real-time dashboard to measure himself, to measure the city in terms of the performance on key metrics, homelessness, economics, etc. How cool is that, man? Transparency. So we should encourage the entire country to model after him. Okay, anti-corruption, anti-systemic corruption, just like transparent, be very outcome focused, truly for the people. Okay, that is real cool. And another highlight for today, in addition to all the great talks by investors, entrepreneurs, well-known people, we're going to also have a bit of a governmental California governor candidates debate with Steve Hilton. He's going to be here. And also Matt Mahan is going to be here as well. And so they're going to duke it out with a moderator. I'm looking forward to that. Tomorrow, out of many, many talks, make sure to attend if you can from 10 to 11 a.m. tomorrow, day 2. I'm going to be moderating the single family office trends in the age of AI panel. And I'm going to have 5 friends of mine that are single family office principals and CIOs. That's going to be very exciting. Okay. We're going to powwow and you're going to learn quite a bit. And I bet you some of you don't even know what a family office is so much. We're going to talk greatly about that. Now, without further ado, I have the benefit of having about close 40 minutes with both Melanie and James. And we're starting off in the in philanthropy, in the age of AI fireside chat. And the reason for that, for this topic to kick off the conference is, like I said, besides our go work culture in Silicon Valley, let's slow down, step back a little bit. What can we do to become all of us? Because all of us in this room, each one of you is a leader in your own way, whether as an entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist, nonprofit, etc. You are each a leader. What can we all do to up our game in being a philanthropist, in giving? Okay, Silicon Valley, part of our culture is pay it forward, right? Give more. So I'm so delighted to have a C-suite leader from St. Jude, LSEC, Melanie with me. She flew in from Memphis. And St. Jude, I'm sure that a bunch of you, by the way, who are St. Jude donors and philanthropists? Are you serving? Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And I've been very fortunate to have worked with St. Jude. Christine, where are you? Christine Ackerman. There you go. So Christine Ackerman, she's the head of the West Territory, which grew to 13 states, including our great state of California. And St. Jude, the slogan, the motto, the mission is Save Children, Curing Cancer. How cool is that? And I've been lucky and fortunate enough to be an executive council member for more than 6 years so far, since right before COVID. Christine is she's very effective, by the way. She's a great person. She looped me in, and I'm very lucky that Ryan also accepted our invite to join our executive council, Ryan Beard. So both Ryan and I, we are in the executive council for St. Jude LSEC. LSEC is the charity arm of St. Jude, and LSEC is the largest healthcare charity in America by far. St. Jude's OpEx is approaching $3 billion. And guess what, guys? The vast majority of funding is from generous private donors, not from corporates, nearly zero from insurance. So if God is not behind that, I don't know what it is. So represented here is healthcare, children, also art. Art is very important, right? Because Silicon Valley, we are very science and technology, but I encourage really, live more holistically, become, or maybe kind of upgrade, kind of think holistically. Art is very important. And I'm so delighted that James is joining us. He heads up the San Jose Art Institute. So we're going to talk about healthcare, talk about arts. Of course, there's many, many areas in which you could contribute in your own philanthropy. Your time, energy, connections, know-how, and or capital. There's a way to give, right? So without further ado, I'm going to have a conversation with both James and Melanie. And I like to talk about the present and the future or the potential future. Like it's kind of a trite saying, right? The best way to predict the future is to create it, like Silicon Valley, is to invent it, like Silicon Valley. Like my own applied AI tech venture, we are creating a future that's going to be very exciting, right? Disrupting something big. So likewise, St. Jude's been around for decades and decades and decades, and Danny Thomas and all that. Okay, ladies first. I'm gonna ask Melanie. Melanie, from your standpoint as the Chief Client Engagement Insight Officer, which is very interesting, by the way, you are like, how's this? Good. It's always good to have a plan B, right? Right by your side. It's a smart thing. It's risk mitigation, guys. Okay. Just like building a company, investing in a company is about building value, mitigating risks, right? Building, kind of building value proposition for a customer, for a partner, return on money to investors, to the founders, to the executives, and risk mitigation, IP, technology, market, people, etc., competition. So also IT, right? Risk mitigation. So Melanie, the present, we talk about future and the future, later on. So past to the present, from your standpoint, from St. Jude's standpoint, from LSEC's standpoint, what are you seeing now? Why is it so important to keep on supporting St. Jude? What are top of mind for you guys now?
Yeah. So, well, first, thank you for your support and Ryan's support and for inviting us to this amazing place. Really, true. Love this space. And you used one of my favorite quotes ever. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And I don't know how much y'all know about the story of St. Jude. And thank you for everyone who is a donor because we are funded by the general public and by private donations. So thank you so much for that. The story of St. Jude really starts with Danny Thomas. If you're not familiar with him, he started St. Jude and founded St. Jude. He was a famous entertainer. He had a famous TV show. He was an actor in the 1950s and 60s, but he wasn't always famous. So we'll go present, past all the way up into the present. He wasn't always famous. He actually started as a comedian and he was traveling in the United States and saw great need specifically with kids and with healthcare. And he prayed to St. Jude Thaddeus, who's the patron saint of hopeless causes, that show me a way in life and I will build you a shrine. So fast forward a little bit, he became famous and he never forgot his promise. And he wanted to give back. And his way of giving back, he actually drew the first drawing of St. Jude on the back of a napkin. So you think about how many of you have been in a room with a dream where he actually just put it on the back of a napkin, and it was almost like his business plan. He went around and he showed people this picture of a hospital that he wanted to build. And it wasn't only just a hospital for children, because he saw a need for tackling catastrophic pediatric diseases, cancer, sickle cell, and many others. But that's the mission of the hospital. He wanted it to treat the disease, but he also added to it that he wanted research to be a part of it, because we're talking about innovation and predicting the future. So he wanted to add a research function so it could be a multiplier effect to actually treat the disease at its core to see if he could prevent the disease. Because back in 1962, when the hospital doors opened, the survival rate for acute lymphoblastic leukemia was 4%. And today, now fast forward, it's greater than 94%. It was a fatal disease. Same with just overall pediatric cancers. It was 20% in 1962, and now it's greater than 80% in the United States. We can talk about around the world in maybe just a minute. So, but as you know, also with early seed rounds, right, there's a lot of risk. You just talked about risk with the microphones, right? There's a lot of risk in, you know, doing something that nobody else is doing, funding research that can't even be proven, don't know. So the third component was he made ALSAC, and that's where I am, and that's the fundraising and awareness organization for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And so he put all three together in a very innovative way, and he said, and kids are going to be treated without regard to race, religion, or ability to pay, which a free funding model back in 1962 was unheard of, and it still is today that way. And then add on top of it, share with the world. So I just wanted to give you some background on that, because all of that is still true today. And what's also true today is, our AI journey. He embedded DNA, innovation into the DNA of the institution as a whole, and you can still see it everywhere. And now where we're headed, and where AI and philanthropy meets, is from an AI perspective, our journey with data actually started in the mid 1990s, where we had so much data on patients because we treat them, but we also follow them with our after completion of therapy clinic and our life study. And so we started a data science function in the mid 1990s. That's evolved into a huge discipline at St. Jude. And just if, rattle off a few things that we're doing, we have a whole facility that's run by Dr. Madan Babu, and we are looking at enhanced imaging, and the enhanced imaging takes it to the atomic level, where actually you can see in the images and a machine can see things that the human eye can't even see. And that's part of predicting transplant complications, pinpointing disease-causing mutations, and then more of our longitudinal studies. So that's just, where the intersection of philanthropy and innovation sits with AI as really being a multiplier effect. And on the fundraising side, we're supported by more than 10,000 donors, which we're incredibly grateful for. And personalizing those experiences is part of what my role is today. So that's just base level what we're doing, where we've been, where we're headed is just trying to embed, machine learning models and AI with humans at the helm to try to advance pediatric cancer and care.
Right. One of the things really admire, love St. Jude so much, right, is that if a nuclear bomb goes off, we all nearly wiped out. They have enough money in the bank to still keep on supporting the patient families for 6 years. And they freely share their advanced research. It's a research hospital, right? So the research they do, it's like cutting edge. They share that openly. How cool is that? In addition to helping so many families in the States and also globally, And oftentimes they are like the last resort for these
Mhm.
families struggling. They take care of you end to end. How cool is that? You look at a child having cancer. I cry, man. You know, as an alpha male, sigma male, we don't cry much at all. But you know, God makes me cry. But although those little children is like, wow, it's so cool, right? It really touches my heart. Thank you, Melanie. James, in the in the world of fine arts, it's a big topic. You are one of our top leaders in this space in Silicon Valley geographically. What about from your standpoint? What's important to you guys now? What's going on?
So, thank you, Jason, so much for providing this opportunity. Ryan, wherever you are, you seem to be the fastest moving guy wherever you are. So, there's no way to track where you are in the room. Thanks indeed for inviting me to be a part of this. And it's really remarkable and a great honor to be sitting beside somebody from St. Jude. Because a lot of my inspiration for what I do personally and professionally comes from the fact that my mother was a pediatric oncologist, and she was actually one of the sort of founding leaders of St. Jude, and was regularly consulted in the creation of the hospital, and was a leading clinician in this country, and actually became one of the main sort of the whole sort of spoken hub model of St. Jude, where they work with meaningful hospital programs across the country. And she helped to create the pediatric oncology unit at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. And then she would regularly bring back her clinical research to these annual meetings in St. Jude. And it was whole this, great thing when she'd be, I'm heading back to Memphis, and would be usually doing these Burroughs Wellcome funded studies and stuff. And with that, actually, when she started her practice, as a primary example, one of the things she was focused on was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it was utterly uncurable. It was a death sentence when she began her practice. And by the time she died, unfortunately, at 59 years old from cancer, she had almost single-handedly been part of a clinical movement to help make non-Hodgkin's lymphoma a curable disease as a childhood cancer.
Thank you for that,
Yeah,
James.
right on.
Like,
And
love it.
indeed, we're
Love, love,
regular
love.
supporters.
Yep.
And St. Jude is one of the most important hospitals in our country for all the reasons that Jason was saying. I take a lot of that inspiration in the work that I do every day. It's partly why I get in the car every day. It's why I head into work. It's why I do what I do, because I actually see it as a reflection of the practice that I saw my mother doing when I was growing up. She would, wake up in the morning. She would wake up in the middle of the night. We had pagers. I'm that old. I'm 1,000 years old. She would get paged, and she was on call, and she would get up in the middle of the night. And because I was her devoted youngest son, I came from a larger family. Every once in a while, I'd go into the hospital with her. I'd get to know these kids who would die. I would get to know the nurses on the clinic and otherwise. And I feel like what we're doing is actually a practice that's about wellness. It's about making this area better. Now, Jason, you seem to be a religious man, and also I think one of the things is you talked about love and truth, and I also feel like a lot of what we're doing is also very much about love and truth. These are about eternal things that bring us all together. I see a lot of the practice that I do also in some way inspired by the model of like third century BC Greece, where a small group of people came together and said, "There's something wrong with this society. We're going too quickly." They were on the edge of a space called the Agora. All they were worried in was sort of making money and trade and moving things along. And they said, we started as a small town. We're growing too quickly, and one of the real challenges is here, we're not taking care of our local populations. And they all started to gather together into a small space called the Stoa Poilica, which was actually essentially a contemporary art center. It was the painted porch inside this open air area in downtown, not San Jose, but Athens. They started bringing people together. They brought people together in person. They said, we're becoming too distributed. We're becoming too interested in empire. We're becoming too interested in what's happening elsewhere. We really need to be focusing on what's happening in our backyard. And by the way, we think a love of knowledge is the most important thing for us to pursue. These big ideas, love, truth. And with that, they coined this phrase of the love of knowledge, namely what we now call philosophy. which really, and the whole idea that there's a veneration of knowledge, at least within this Western tradition, comes from that moment. We call these people now the Stoics. It has a different application these days. We think of it slightly differently, but really what it was about was this sort of belief in love and truth. We provide this here in downtown San Jose in our contemporary art space called the ICA San Jose. In terms of working with AI, it's a tool for us. I was also very moved by Melanie, right? Talking about that we use all these AI tools, but there's always a human at the helm. Right. So I think one of the things, and I hope we'll get into this a little bit, but like AI is a tool for all of us now, right? So we also use AI in our day-to-day operations, but we also need to make sure that we're finding that time to ideate. We've had 3 within the last 3 years major exhibitions that have been using, that have been working with local artists, all of whom use AI significantly in the development of their artwork. But again, it's really about the humanity. It's really about the ideating that makes it meaningful. And they're using AI as a tool. I would say, at risk of not being invited back, I think one of the other challenges also is about philanthropy and having people give back into this area. I'm thrilled, Jason, that you give so generously to St. Jude. It's in Memphis. And one of the things is that we know that the philanthropy in this area, because it's about energy, it's about reputation, it's about prestige, people don't give enough here, right? And I'm sure also that you support Stanford hospitals. I'm sure you're clearly, I'd imagine you're involved in your church and a lot of other things. But Silicon Valley is known for giving to great places like St. Jude, believing there are great programs in Africa, knowing that there are things that happen elsewhere. But we know demographically that philanthropy in this area is not being invested back into this area. And we have serious wellness issues. Palo Alto High School has the highest suicide rate of any high school in the United States of America. We have second generation leaders here of family offices who are looking ways to connect in person. They're on these college campuses. They're saying, we want to come together with our friends and colleagues, and we want to talk about truth and love. And that's what we're committed to at the ICA downtown.
It's fantastic. We certainly share the ethos of giving, love and truth, right? And Silicon Valley's got so much potential. It's actually very exciting. And when there's so much potential, so much room for growth, so much room to produce, of course, innovate and impact the world. And it's good to make sure that our values and principles, right? The most important thing is your belief system. Is your belief system like truly aligned with good? And don't get gaslighted. Don't like when you give. In fact, I encourage you to do homework to make sure that the money you contribute to this NGO, NPO is gonna, most of that is gonna go directly for a great cause in the end recipients that are great causes. Okay, don't donate to these dirty, hideous, hypocritical, political NGOs. Okay, the NGO industrial complex is real. I hate it. Systemic corruption. And not to mention homeless industrial complex, not to mention illegal migrant industrial complex. You love people, but you want to serve Americans first, not illegal migrants. Okay, I'm speaking frankly and bluntly on that. So when you give in your philanthropy, it's good to verify. Don't just give. And if you've done homework like we have done, for sure, you'll realize that most of the NGOs and NPOs worldwide is actually kind of corrupt, because most of the funding that goes to them, the vast majority goes in their pockets, in the layers of fees, and it's really systemic corruption. So you do have to do homework. Your heart might be in the right place in giving, but do homework to make sure that, I would interrogate them to, hey, show me proof on exactly how the fund is going to get spent, invested in, etc. So, and that example is I support a number of nonprofits. One of my favorites is Opportunity International, opportunity.org. They got funding of $30 million last year. It resulted in over $1 billion in actual outcomes for the poor entrepreneurs worldwide. And it taught them education, support them in ways that creates a derivative exponential effect. How cool is that? It's spectacular. It's a small fraction of, it's one of a very top, right? So I support them. because they are really doing impactful work. When you alleviate poverty, like when you help with your healthcare and all that, it uplifts the world, man. That'll indirectly reduce crime rate. That'll reduce a lot of problems, and everyone's gonna benefit better, right? But of course, as leaders, we have to help channel them in good direction, not to move in kind of darker directions out there. Okay, James, you've been quite humble. You've been talking more about St. Jude than about what you do. But let's talk about more about your institute, your art institute. What's going on? What are some key focus areas that you have right now? And let's segue to up ahead, to the future. Okay, like when Gretzky mentioned, right? Go to where the puck will be. Don't go to the puck is at now, because by the time you get there, the puck might be gone over there. So that also tests the quality of your own vision and your own critical thinking, correct? So, so present to the future, what's going on in your space? Arts.
So a lot of what we're focused on is, I think there many people feel in different ways about this word, but wellness has become a really important sort of key word in terms of thinking about society and what we're doing and how we're caring for all of each other. What we have on right now is an incredible media-rich, immersive exhibition created by a local artist. We're very dedicated to supporting local or regional artists in our area. It's very much about the local economy. It's also very much about the local, as some people say, sort of arts ecosystem. But that same arts ecosystem serves tourism, it serves our local businesses, and it provides local jobs. This artist, Miguel Novello, he teaches at Stanford. He also teaches at San Jose State. And he has created an installation that explores our relationship to present society and a desire to promote the concept of geological time. The idea is more also, though, that it's like creating a space where we come together in person and we start engaging in person. Because I know, at least for myself, I spend a lot of time on my phone. I spend a lot of time on screens. I spend a lot of time commuting. I spend a lot of time working, doing other things. Just as you were saying, we need to spend time with our families. We need to spend time connecting. So it's also about bringing people together. And with that, we've also focused a lot, mainly on two groups right now, one of which is the local college populations. Because I think also one of the things that very much defines Silicon Valley is that it has these incredible world-class institutions: Santa Clara University, Stanford University, and indeed San Jose State University just down the street, which is the oldest public university west of the Mississippi, right? And San Jose is directly in the middle of the triangulation of all of those. And then the other population that we're also thinking about is I guess what gets called like sort of the boomer population, the aging population in a sense, although I don't think any of them feel like they're aging. And this is the largest growing demographic in this country because they've been in great shape, they've been taking care of each other, they're living longer. And so with that, creating a space for coming together and thinking. Again, our present exhibition is with a local artist, Miguel Novello. And then we also have a companion exhibition in our back gallery by a local South Asian artist named Anushka Mirchandani. And that's more sort of traditional in its approach of painting and otherwise, but it also has this sort of backspace that's this sensory environment that you can sit in, find solace, spend time. And in many ways, what it's about is the migratory patterns of people across the world. Her particular story is very much wrapped up in Indian partition. But in many ways, for the people that we've had coming through, especially our local Vietnamese American populations and otherwise, there's a sense that you're hearing the traditions and stories of people being shared across time. So the idea is creating a space that in a way takes you out of this world, but doing it in a way in which that we're fundamentally bringing people together. And since we've been focusing on these fundamental ideas of love and truth, as you put them, we've been seeing events. We had our first Friday the other night where we had 300 people coming through, and Miguel Novella was on site, and he ended up writing this piece that he like posted on social media afterward. And he said, "This has been one of the most amazing nights of my life. I talked to 300 people, age 70 to age 10, some of the most diverse populations I've ever had the opportunity to be engaged with, and I feel like in every case we healed each other." And it was a truly remarkable experience. So that's some of what we're doing. Going forward, we have several other programs that are often sort of, in some way technology informed, often with AI as a tool. But again, it's very much about making sure that, as you were saying, humans at the helm.
By the way, James, I grew up in the '70s, and in San Francisco, and I moved to the South Bay in the 80s. And back then, man, the 80s were probably before some of you were born. Back then, minimal regulations, live rock bands, pop rock bands everywhere. Okay, in addition to visual arts, performing arts, please help bring back some cool live rock bands. Okay, in downtown San Jose. I call it San Jose. It's a family joke, right? San Jose, San Jose. So with my daughter, I would love that. I would love that. And comedy clubs and all that. Those are great, right?
So we actually partner. We do sometimes live, but DJs now are also popular as well. So in all of our opening events, we always have music. We always have performance. And then one of the things is more recently we've also been partnering with a local group here called the Don't Tell Comedy Group. And the thing is that you're not supposed to know where they one of their things is they draw people in by way of not letting them know where the venue is going to be. But several of the times we're the venue. So just yes, yes, and yes. And this is exactly what we're doing. You have to come by and see one of these nights.
I love it. Please invite me. My older daughter, Sabrina, in New York City, she participated in this improv thing. It cracks me up, you know? So, okay, Melanie, let's move to the future. Back to the future. So, from present to short term, medium term, longer term, what's within your vision in St. Jude healthcare, children healthcare in general?
Yeah, so many things. Thank you, James, for not only talking about St. Jude, but about art and art, how art is related to wellness or even comedy, pop-up comedy. You know, it couldn't be more important that art is interwoven into wellness. And even at St. Jude, we actually have an art therapy program too. Yep, which I'm not sure if folks here are familiar with, where art, not only just art like visual art, but also the arts, so music, etc., are just a part of the healing process as a whole and a part of being human. So, and then I would just say with philanthropy as well, support those charities that really move you, that can demonstrate trust, that can demonstrate outcomes. You're right, maybe there are some that don't do as much of it, but like demonstrating the outcomes that you just mentioned. So I love all that. And as far as our future, we do have a strategic plan, transparency. It's actually on our website. It's a 6-year, 12.9 billion expansion of the mission plan. And a lot of that plan is actually related to not only local, we actually are local. We partner locally here with like Stanford University, a lot of universities throughout the country, and then also throughout the world. And many of the clinical trials or protocols, you can actually go to clinicaltrials.gov. You can see the clinical trials that are used not only at St. Jude, but throughout the country and throughout the world. So that it probably our protocols that we've either developed ourselves or co-developed are everywhere. But the everywhere part is important. We probably one of the biggest initiatives is St. Jude Global. And as part of St. Jude Global, we now partner with 400 plus institutions all across the world. Now, it's not new. We actually started the International Outreach Program in 1993. So we've been more than 30 years partnering, doing like consults. Like every day, we have doctors who, for free, they're on the phone and they consult all across the world on the protocols for which we are having patients enrolled and trying to make progress on. And just to give you some sense to St. Jude Global, in addition to the 400 different institutions we work with, each year there's about 400,000 kids who are diagnosed with cancer throughout the world. And I'll say diagnosed because in many parts of the world, there are children who just die and nobody knows why because they don't even have access to healthcare. So it's a big global problem to solve. And much like I just said, in 1962, the cure rates for childhood cancer in the United States were 20%, and now we're closer to a little over 80% in the United States. It's flipped across the world. So literally in the rest of the world, the cure rates for diseases we already know how to treat, by the way, are 20%. So we embarked on a really large initiative, our global initiative, and in partnership with the World Health Organization, with governments all throughout the world, with other nonprofit organizations and NGOs, we have a goal to advance those cure rates from 20% to 60% by 2030 for the top 6 most common pediatric cancers. And so that takes a lot of what I'll call like an operating system. It's not like it's great to have an app, right? And an app that solves a single point solution. But what we're doing is like creating the foundational capacity building and infrastructure so that thousands of apps can run on it. And so all of these countries and these institutions trying to collectively work together. So that's a big part of what St. Jude Global is. That's our goal. We have other things that we've done. So this is where it's like trust and outcomes, right? So one of the other things that we have embarked on is our global medicines program. Basically, one of the biggest barriers to actual treatment is access to medicine, but access to medicines that you know where they came from, you know where they're going, you know, we're making sure that there's not fraudulent access all throughout. So we embarked on a global initiative for global medicines. We started with 6 countries. And soon we're going to be expanding to 6 more. And the goal there is to expand to 50 countries and to service 120,000 kids over the course of this time period. So we're doing that as well. And probably one other thing that we've done, and this is more in the AI and data camp of things, is about a decade ago or so, we embarked on the pediatric cancer genome project in partnership with Washington University, and we mapped 800 plus genomes for incurable tumors. One of the things that, because we've been around for so long, is that we had a database in actual tumors that we were keeping and that could then be marked and run through DNA. And now what we've done is we've made that accessible in a project called St. Jude Cloud. And if you're a researcher or a scientist, or you want to be on some kind of protocol, you can apply to get access to that data and then potentially use that data or use the models that have been put on top of that. And that was part of Danny's vision, right? Like sharing information that we might have with the world so we could find cures. And again, that's a part of the operating system. So I would just add, like, when you're thinking about investing, invest in something you're passionate about. Invest in philanthropy. There's so many great ones. I think St. Jude is there. It sounds like you the same, right? And then there's many others. Invest in something you're passionate about that's driving outcomes, that can have more of like a multiplier effect to it. So that's sort of where we're headed.
Well said. Operating system. Just like some of you know me as a chief mentor of next gen leaders, right? Gen Z to Gen X, even boomers. And these are my private students and mentees. Part of what I do with them is to shape up, uplift, instill into them a deeper, more effective, personal, practical operating system in your heart, mind, and soul and skills, right? In the right direction. Hyper important. And I appreciate that. And Melanie, you have a voice, wise use of AI. Of course, AI is great for investing, for building as entrepreneurs and investors, but also using each one of us individually in our family, within our organization. How to use AI. A part of the mindset is that you can think about AI as augmented intelligence, right? Augmenting your own intelligence. And your competitor is not AI. Your competitor or your competitors using AI better than you. So you better shape up. We better shape up and keep improving on a weekly basis, if not on a daily basis. You know. So James, in your world, in the world of arts and philanthropy combined intersection, what's your vision? Short, medium, long term. What's important to you in your vision?
Really, I think it comes back around to what I was mentioning before, really in terms of societal wellness. Really thinking about that, you know, what we're doing is investing back into the people of this area, creating events, as you were talking about, also in terms of just comedy, a willingness to be responsive to the needs of this region. In a lot of ways, really feeling like if we don't care for our cities, if we don't, as specifically being called the ICA San Jose, if we don't care for our cities, then our society will begin to crumble. And indeed, we see indications of that here and there, and ways in which that we're trying to address that. So indeed, in a lot of ways, it's very much about investing, especially in the college age kids in this area. Maybe I'm being a little selfish in a way. I have my son, he's coming to visit me tonight. Gosh, we're going to go to a live show together. He's going to take me to Echo and the Bunnymen. I don't know if that means anything to anybody else in the room. I went to it was my first concert in 1987, and now all of a sudden my son's excited about it, and he's taking me out in San Francisco tonight. But really about caring for this particular generation in a way with a certain kind of focus, because, he had his first iPad at like 10 years old. The technology is great. It's helping him to think in a forward way, but it also is, having certain kind of problems on his attention, ability to maintain attention for a long period of time. We know also with social media, I know I can't stop checking my phone every 5 minutes. And we know also with AI that while it's an incredibly useful tool, at the same time, is it giving us enough time to like truly ideate? So really sort of focusing on this generation who've grown up with all these tools, not least of which the issues of the pandemic, and making sure that we're creating a space for them. So also, for example, we're hosting a fashion show next week, which is all being organized by the San Jose State students and otherwise. But again, also thinking about lifelong learning, also thinking about how through our programs, through the ways that we're bringing people together, making sure that we're caring for, just as you were saying, like you were talking about next generation leaders, right? So you were talking about like Gen X, Gen Z, and then you also mentioned boomers, right? Because also one of the things that's going to be happening with a lot of the technology is we're also going to have a certain amount of this population that's going to be underemployed, right? So also, how do we think about reskilling people? How do we make sure that we're bringing people together? How do we make sure that those people are not feeling disaffected? And many of them sometimes are going through life crises, and one of the problems, which I know is a huge issue in this country, is the issue of isolation, right? And so one of the things is, and this has actually been some of the most magical moments that I've had at a professional level in this place, is meeting with somebody who I know is going through a life crisis. And then they come through our space and say, like, I've never quite felt so seen. And we're creating that unforgettable experience. I was having like a sort of sidebar conversation with somebody who was talking about, developing new chips and doing the next thing, and a secret space in North Carolina that was the only place that you could get the carbon that was doing the silicon. But then when he really started to talk about this whole project about Pablo Picasso, he started to light up. He was like, the really big thing I want to talk to you about is Pablo Picasso. And have you ever heard of Juan Gris? These big, long arcs of humanity and culture are the things that get us really excited. It comes back around to those foundational ideas of love and truth. A lot of what we're going to be doing going forward, I hate to say, is much of the same. These are the things that we're dedicated to now. These are the things that we're dedicated to moving into the future. All to say, though, we're using AI on an operational level as a tool. We've had 3 showcase exhibitions with local artists, each of which is in their own way focused on using AI as a tool. New technologies present new tools for our arts and culture. So indeed, we're also very dedicated to making sure that we're showing ways in which, and especially to people in this local area and these industries, there are applications of AI that also are uplifting humanity within the arts and cultural realm as well. And that's certainly not something that we're backing away from. As I said, our current exhibition, very media rich. Several of the tools, he vibe coded the whole thing using AI tools, some of which are these interactives where he's taken 300-pound stones and created these kind of motherboard systems where you're actually creating an interactivity. It makes you rethink your relationship to objects, to the earth, to the world, and to the technology itself. You have to come by and see.
I love to take a look. I really love that, right? Keep on doing what you do with San Jose State, with Santa Clara University, with the community colleges everywhere, with high schools as well. Don't worry about kids being digital. They are absolute digital experts, right? But make sure to really instill into them analog skills. Confiscates a cell phone sometimes. I'm telling you, right? Parents with little kids, especially, one key skill is to make sure with little kids, right? Sit them on your lap in a bed, read to them with physical books on a nightly basis. Okay, build that habit. My wife and I did it. So glad their ability to learn and all that is fantastic, right? that analog is so important.
Yeah, and also if I can just say yes to all of that, and I think one of the other things is what we try and do, especially with some of our more technologically informed projects, is that they can see that there's magic within the technology, right? That also and that they have agency. That I mean, a lot of that very much in the technology world, and this is very much about what you're talking about future leaders, and we're very dedicated to this. Also, because then that's a way that they can invent that new app, discover that new thing, do that next thing. We very much embrace the technological environment, but we make sure that there isn't a sense of loss of magic. And then indeed also making sure that people see the way artists are working with them, that they have an artist within them themselves, and they have that same ability to have agency in their relationship to technology, and they can make magic out of it.
Right. I love that so much, right? It's like all of us here encourage our next generation, whether they are little kids all the way to Gen X, right? Even Gen Xers, I say that you're a kid. I'm actually a tail end boomer. That's how old I am. But I feel like Gen Z in terms of energy. The older I get, I've never been more creative, man. I tell you, it's crazy. So the creativity maybe comes with wisdom. And by doing what you do, you actually uplift the creativity and the critical thinking in kids, and you're helping shepherd them in a great direction, right? So they could live, contribute, grow more holistically. And with that, I have 2 more minutes, and we're gonna wrap. Let's give each one of you 1 minute. Any final concluding takeaway you would love for the audience to have? Melanie, 1 minute.
Well, I think the first is I want to come see this, actually. I have twin 11-year-olds in my home, so I'm like all in all of that. Oh, here we go. I just got love it.
Okay, send me the mic.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think my final thing is about investing, like, and thinking differently maybe about how you might invest, whether it's you're donating today to whichever cause you're donating to. Thank you. If you don't have the wherewithal today, like maybe you're starting a company, but we have some people who are putting right into their founding documents, like give back 2.5% at some point in time when a company starts to cash flow or other ways. So I would say, like, that would be the biggest thing in philanthropy is in investing. Give what you can today, give to things that can multiply, and then give what you can tomorrow if that's not a feasibility today. So that's my biggest thing, other than my 11-year-olds that I try to keep not on the phones. Actually, they don't have phones. So
Well, I mean, indeed, I think that multi-generational engagement's also very important to us. And I think, one of the things that comes to my mind and directly in line with what you were just saying is one of our sort of somewhat newer board members. He spent his whole life working at Intel. And in a lot of ways, this is also very much about having that next generation find a space within these local communities, giving back, participating. And in many cases, they've built their lives and their worlds around the technologies of this region. And now they're in a place where they want to figure out sort of what's next for them, right? And one of the things that he says often, very much to your point earlier, he often likes to quote Jensen Huang as saying that what he really feels like is what's next in the AI revolution is the revenge of the English majors, right? That it's really because what we need now is we need empathy, we need a high level of systems thinking, and the kind of thing that's come from great art and literature across the centuries in all of our civilizations. These are the highest skills that are going to keep people employed, and this is what, as you say, humans at the helm is going to make sure that these technologies take us to the place where we all want to go.
Right, absolutely. Soft skills, right? I'm into that all the time with my private students and mentees. And just very briefly, besides my tech company family business, part of my extracurricular activities is being a B20 member for the G20. So the B20 is the G20's official business forum, right? It's a counterpart to the G20. So we have a lot of sway in the world. And we represent the voice of our private sector. I've been sitting in the future of work, education, employment, skills, human capital task force for the past 11 years, right? The U.S. is hosting the G20 this year. I'm very excited. So we're gonna do it in Miami, et cetera. And one thing that I've observed as one of the leading, there's only a few Americans who get appointed every year, right? I'm one of them. I see quite a bit in terms of a gap between what employers want versus what the colleges are producing, including the Ivy League in these schools. There's such a gap, and I find that when Trump is hard on Harvard, I'm so glad he's doing that. Wake up! It's too woke. It's not practical. you're producing kids that want to be strategists right off the bat. No, your ass better produce. You better contribute and rise up from the ranks, okay? Because the employers hire you to produce, not to be cocky and to be a strategist only, okay? You have to execute and all that. So with AI, with I love vocational schools, by the way. Vocational, real. I would love to see more Gen Z becoming next generation electricians, plumbers, using AI to help the work. With AI, there's going to be more nurses because the nurse is going to free up the time to see more patients because there's such a backlog. Clinics, and in fact, Jensen mentioned that hospitals is going to hire more nurses, hire more other technicians that AI cannot fully replace because the demand's so high. Okay, then they're going to raise the revenue. It's a win-win-win, man. It's a great thing. So with that, thank you so much, Melanie and James. It's I hope that it's been helpful, and we're gonna shift to the next talk soon.